Right. Some performances were lacking some intensity at the weekend, but some were supreme, sublime. Where are we starting?
Let's just say Welsh sport has put its best foot forward, which we'll get to in just a moment. But there was a hell of a lot of competition for the worst performers this weekend, to the point where we've had to generalise our worst performers of the weekend, just referees in general. Your Gozares, your Masons, your Atwells, they all delivered with terrible, terrible performances over the course of the weekend. If we take this thing maybe in chronological order, let's start with Lee Mason on Saturday, refereeing in the Brighton versus West Brom game. He disallowed, then allowed a Lewis Dunk free kick, only for VAR to then chalk off the strike. And when you watch this, it is pure drama, where you can see Lee Mason has realised he has lost complete control of the moment, where he doesn't know what's happened. Now, that happens to all of us. Like, have you ever walked into a supermarket and forgot what was on your shopping list? Like, it happens all the time. We walk into a room, forget what you walked into the room to do. That was Lee Mason at the moment. He's like, what's just happened here? What has just happened? Lewis Dunk, obviously fuming afterwards. He says, I don't think he knew what he was doing. I said to him, can I take the free kick? He said, yes. I took it, and then it went into the back of the net. Why didn't he give the goal? He knew he said go. To make matters worse then for Lee Mason, he proceeded to suffer a calf injury. And everybody thought that he had pulled himself from the Liverpool game last night as fourth official. But actually he was injured. He got injured on Saturday, so that's why he was missing last night. It was a terrible performance. You feel sorry for the guy, because it's just the human condition setting in, that sometimes we just forget to do things that are the correct thing to do, and that's what happened to him in a very public forum. Another person who that happened to, maybe on a more benign level, because who knows what he was thinking here, is Pascal Gozaire. And the way I would describe the Owen Farrell situation, where he says, go speak to your team, and then allows Dan Biggar to cross the pitch, is shouting at somebody, hey, look, a distraction, and then running around the person and getting away with it like that. Because Pascal Gozaire and Eddie Jones have had run-ins in the past. In 2018, Eddie Jones was pretty annoyed with how Gozaire handled a game that he said he had publicly brought the issue up with World Rugby. In 2019, Gozaire was the ref for a World Cup warm-up game between England and Wales. In that situation as well, there was a quick penalty from Dan Biggar, and Anthony Watson, who had just been sent to the sin bin, was leaving the pitch. They had to wait for that to happen in the eyes of England, but Wales played on. And Eddie Jones, after the game, said maybe the yellow card should have been shown to the referee rather than to Anthony Watson. So this isn't the first time that Gozaire and Eddie Jones have had a bit of a run-in. Now, unfortunately for all of us, Eddie Jones managed to zip up and not actually say anything that stupid on Saturday night. I'm sure it was very tempting for him to do so. Same with Owen Farrell. But Gozaire, not a great performer. And then the third person in the trilogy of referees from the weekend is Stuart Atwell. So I'm sure you're familiar with that meme from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where Charlie's in front of the conspiracy board and he's just completely losing his mind at the conspiracy that's unfolding all around him. That is what Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is in this situation. Stuart Atwell is Pepe Sylvia, and he has got to the point now where the conspiracies about Manchester United have fed into his own view that it is the world against us. So Callum Hudson-Odoi handles the ball in the penalty area yesterday, doesn't get a penalty. Then Luke Shaw comes out after the game, and he's also believing this conspiracy, Lark. He says, I don't know why they stopped it if it's not going to be a pen. The ref told Harry, if I say it's a pen, there's going to cause a lot of talk about it after. So Luke Shaw said that in his post-match interview yesterday, and United then had to come out and play down Luke Shaw's comments, stating that the left-back had actually misheard Stuart Atwell. So United are like, let's distance ourselves from this a little bit. But Solskjaer then, not doubled down on that, but says, I don't want to cause controversy. It's all these outside influences. VAR talk from Chelsea about Harry. That's cheeky putting it up on their website. This was the talk about Harry Maguire in the build-up to the game. That's influencing referees. You obviously had Jurgen Klopp coming out a few weeks ago talking about all the penalties that Manchester United get, and Solskjaer kind of alluded to all these forces that are at play at the moment. So the referees didn't have a great weekend, but Manchester United are really buying in to the conspiracy that everybody is out to get them when it comes to officiating.
They might be right. Number 4, poor performance, Italian rugby.
Yeah, how bad would Italy need to have played for them to be in bottom spot is the question I would have. It would probably need to be 100 points for them to actually surprise us with their crapness. like playing Italy is like driving through the speed arrows in Mario Kart or Crash Bandicoot. And that is something that maybe we need to bear in mind a little bit when it comes to the next few weeks for Ireland. Maybe this will have a material impact on Ireland's successes. And like that brings us nicely on to number 3 here, which is Ireland. Firmly in the orange is where I would put them. I don't think you can get too carried away. Exactly. Grand. But you don't believe in momentum. You think it's absolute nonsense. But is there a little bit of a spring you can get?
I believe in confidence, Owen. These are different things. Go on.
Well, that's it. Is there a spring that you can get from hammering a really bad team?
Yeah.
That will have a material impact on the next game against Scotland?
Yeah, because players suddenly feel like they're confident and they can try things and they take that with them.
So, like, I mean, that is probably a material element of momentum, is what I would say, but that's probably a debate for another day. There's not too much else to say here. We had Alan Quinlan on earlier on. Ireland, grand. It was an okay performance.
I think the fact that Joey Carbery came back at the weekend, it was a great weekend for Irish rugby, and that's why I would probably tip them into the green, because if Carbery comes back, all of a sudden, you have Carbery starting and Johnny Sexton off the bench in 18 months' time, and everybody's delighted, and everybody's really happy. And you've got Craig Casey probably starting alongside Joey Carbery, and that's an unbelievably exciting half-back partnership. The backs played quite well. We now have some new bodies coming through into the team. Our back row strength and depth suddenly looks pretty good again. Jack Conan is fit and could play at 8. Nobody would have any concerns about him. You've got a bunch of 6s, a couple of 7s who are playing and who are fit, and I think that the mood music is up anyway.
For sure. We move on to the Welsh section of this morning's show. You can join us now, Welsh folk, fans of any sport really. You're welcome this morning, because at number 2, it is Gareth Bale. 2 goals yesterday in Spurs' dominant win over Burnley. He's now been directly involved in 7 goals in his last 4 appearances for Spurs in all competitions. This is the first time he has scored twice in a match since September 2019, and has now scored in successive club appearances for the first time since August and September 2018. Gareth Bale is rolling back the clock here a little bit, that if you're a Tottenham fan, if you're a Wales fan, there's a sign of legitimate hope here that Gareth Bale could go on a run of form over the next couple of months that might see him rekindle part of his greatness at the very least. A brilliant performance yesterday. But at number 1, like, I mean, you can take this away, Ger. The Grand Slam is on. The Welsh rugby team are absolute world beaters. Nobody ever doubted them and their great coach, Wayne Pivac. We knew that they would stuff everybody in this year's Six Nations. We called it, of course, and they have duly gone along and beaten everybody, and they're going to go and claim the Grand Slam once again. I worship our new Welsh overlords, is all I'm going to say this morning. They
might be the greatest team in the world at the moment. They certainly, by the end of this tournament, they're going to have beaten up everybody in the Northern Hemisphere, because at this stage you would make them heavy odds on to beat the French, just the way everything's going. The fact that the French team are completely destroyed by COVID, and who knows when that game might actually get played. But if that game was to get played, you know, just as the French are coming out of their period of COVID recuperation and find themselves somewhat weakened, well then that would be the most bizarre Grand Slam in the history of Grand Slams. It would be unbelievable. The odds on a sending off, unbelievable refereeing decisions. England being so flaky, by the way. England's flakiness is getting a little bit passed over here. Managed to get themselves back into the game after the bad refereeing decisions, and then like, too tired, can't be. Do we have to do this? Very flaky. But the one thing is, the Welsh are definitely playing for their head coach. We said that after the Ireland game, and their skill level is off the charts. We always kind of known this. That whole thing about it being their national sport, that manifests itself in games like that, where, and in games like the Ireland game, where the ball was kind of greasy. They were still just that level ahead when it came to it. But their forwards were sensational against England. You know, the Vinopolas were getting stopped in the tackle and pushed backwards, which normally when we watch them, they're that whole dominant tackle malarkey, they're crushing us. So, fair play, Wales. Never doubted you.
Yeah, well, yeah, very, very happy Monday indeed to all the Welsh people out there. Like, I'm really disappointed, actually, that the COVID situation's actually developed in this way. Like, obviously, I mean, Wales might benefit in the end, but a proper final day of the Six Nations Grand Slam face-off between Wales and France might have actually happened had the France game gone ahead last weekend, they'd beaten Scotland. Like it wouldn't have been the most ridiculous thing in the world to have seen that happen. I know France obviously have to play England, don't they, next time out? So it's no guarantee that they would have been in that place. But that's what you want to see. As much as we try to take the piss out of Wales, you want to see a proper battle on the last day where the winner takes the Grand Slam. That'd be an amazing conclusion to this.
Our audience suggestions. Ross says Matt Doherty should be on the rankings. Poor Matt Doherty. He's one of the red people from the weekend, just for the stuff that he was getting from Roy Keane. Philip Doyle says stick Harry Byrne down there and Tyg Byrne for man of the match. Good shouts. The Burns. This is the era of the Burns taking over Irish rugby. Luke Shaw should be there, the best left back in England, says Michael. Harrison says Will Connors. Brian says Matt Williams for having absolutely no sympathy for England. His laughter at halftime on Virgin Media was certainly hilarious. Burn987 on Instagram says Bale, Arteta, Wales, City, and Jamie Redknapp. You haven't been lording it over us. The Mikel Arteta era is here. The man seems to have turned a corner. Everything is going well.
Yes, I saw someone did make a very valid point, though, that they could so easily have been knocked out of the Europa League last Thursday night. And, they might not have had the heart in the previous season to fight back against Leicester City yesterday either. And if they lose those two games, we're now sitting here this morning saying Mikel Arteta is under massive pressure. So I'm keen to not get too far ahead of myself, considering Arsenal are lurking just inside the top half. But you look at, let's go for it, Mikel Arteta, greatest manager in the world.
Well, Pepe looks good again.
And Willian, yesterday, all of a sudden, I think I genuinely believed that was a disastrous piece of business. When he signed, I thought this might actually work. And it quickly showed that it's not going to work whatsoever. However, yesterday, it looked as if Willian might actually be worth something to Arsenal. Like he was signed on a 3-year deal last summer. So they need to try and make light of the situation in some way by getting some use out of the player that he probably hasn't been for a lot of the season. But yeah, no, he's made players better. He's definitely made players better. Martin Odegaard has come in as well. He's going to play a lot more now. It looks like Emile Smith-Rowe got a nasty enough injury yesterday, and things are ticking along nicely. But to have this sort of season now is decent because Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang has been a passenger for a lot of the season. Like if we were sitting here at the start of the year saying Aubameyang is going to be a shadow of his former self for basically the entire year, we would expect this. So it's about par for the course when your best player is. I know he scored a hat-trick against Leeds a few weeks ago, but he has been bang average for a lot of this year, and that has been one massive issue.
The new Mesut Ozil, I hear you say. James says, Ringrose, great game, dangerous ball in hand, reliable in defence. And then Keane says, Hugo Keenan, is he a Lions bolter? May well be a Lions bolter. He wouldn't bet against getting in the squad if it was to be named just now. But there's games against England and Scotland to come. That will dictate who gets on the plane for the Lions. So there's lots up for grabs for that Ireland team. That's it for this week from the Gillette Performance Rankings.
OTB AM's Performance Rankings with Gillette.